Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to take a look at something that is going on over in China for the Pokemon TCG. Now, what they're basically doing, as I mentioned before, China is catching up with the rest of the world, trying to make sure that they can run these tournaments with new cards, etc. And they're not caught up yet, but they are catching up. But they're doing this awesome thing where as they're catching up, they're just dropping in these really cool, weird things that we just don't get anywhere else. I told you, their new set is 9 Colors Gathering, and that's bringing in new Eevee Heroes artwork, which incidentally also comes with stuff like a new playmat, for instance. We talked about that recently. Little bit weird, but also kind of amazing. I told you they've got events coming up where they're bringing back the Project Piplup promo, which we've never seen before. Well, no, that's a lie. We saw it once in Japan for Project Piplup, but it's the first time we've seen it since then, and it doesn't have the Project Piplup stamp on. And then, they've got stuff like the Venusaur and Blastoise set, but with exclusive full arts that were never seen anywhere else. Which is weird, right? That's definitely weird. And they're doing this as they go along. And sometimes they're actually doing it in a way which is making these cards more available. So the Alola set I showed you a little while ago was a way to get the Alola Friends promo, or Friends and Alola if you want to phrase it that way, for a slightly less ridiculous price because it was only released in Japan very briefly in one particular place, and then it got stupid expensive super duper 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 quickly. And that was not ideal. So picking up the Chinese version, and as I mentioned the other day, I've heard a bunch of you basically saying, yeah, you know what? This is actually the way we've been able to get this. This is the way we've been able to actually find this card for a non-ridiculous price. And that was rather lovely. Well, there's a tournament going on that is giving out a card, well, a few cards, one of which has not really been seen outside of Japan, has not been seen for a long time. But it is not going to be easy to get, and it is not going to be cheap. You see, they've got a tournament going on over in China, a series of tournaments, the Battle Party King Contest. And it looks to be tournaments, I've told you about this before, where basically there are 8 different decks. And you get one of them at random and you go and play a tournament. Now, 2 of them don't actually have GXs in. There's a Steelix and a Raichu. But then some of them, there's 3 GXs, Tyranitar, Lucario and Baynet. But there's also 3 tag team GXs, Venusaur and Snivy and Charizard and Braixen and Blastoise and Piplup. So yeah, I'm sure by now the players in China must have figured out which of these decks are better. But regardless, this looks like a very, very, very cool thing to do. I am a big fan of this, and I love these kind of tournaments. We've seen these before. They are amazing. The thing is, it seems like, and actually we got a date on this one, they came out in April of last year, so we're nearly a year on from the actual release of these. And now we've got this new tournament going on. And I love these tournaments, just to be clear. I really, really enjoy having these sealed tournaments. I think they're fun. And I have confirmed, incidentally, that basically they're 64-player tournaments. But each lot of 64 is divided into groups of 8 for the first round. And then each person in the group has one of each of the 8 decks, which is kind of amazing, and then the winner of each of those then goes into, determine the actual winner. So we got 2 stages for this. Stage 1 is the Kahili stage. It's happening from March 9th to April the 13th, and you get yourself a Kahili for entering. And it's just Kahili. Ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill Kahili, we've seen this before, right? Not a good card, incidentally. Draw 2 cards, flip a coin. If heads, if you play Kahili from your hand, i.e. if you played it from your hand rather than playing it as a Pokemon ability or whatever, then you put this card into your hand instead of your discard pile. And that's fine. But it's like, yeah, if you flip a heads, you've got a guaranteed supporter card next turn. but it's a really bad supporter card. So, do you really care? But if you win the whole thing, if you win this tournament, what do you get? Oh, you get yourself the Full Art Kahili. Now, to be fair, this is also a card we've seen before. Now, both of these Kahili cards do have the stamp, which is lovely, but they are cards we've seen before, and like I say, Kahili isn't a particularly good card. I'm assuming Kahili might be made available elsewhere, but the fact that everybody gets a Kahili on entry, and the fact that it's, let's face it, not a good card, means it's unlikely to cause a problem. The Full Art being limited to 150, I mean, look, we're not talking about one of the most popular Pokemon characters out there. We're not talking about brand new exclusive artwork or anything along those lines, so there is an argument here that this won't get ridiculous, but again, it's limited to 150. But then we get to Mina. Now, starting off, we've got Mina, or Jasmine as it's literally translated from Japanese and Chinese. Definitely Chinese, maybe Japanese, but in China it's Jasmine. Point is, this is actually a much, much better card. Mina is a significantly better card, and, you know, it's been a while since Mina was legal over here, but when it was, a bunch of people played it. You search your deck for a fairy energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. Doesn't end your turn or any of that, it's literally just a case of go and grab yourself an extra energy and attach it, job's a good un. Nice. Here's the thing though, we've also got this Full Art. Now, you are all probably, if you've been playing the game long enough, familiar with this Full Art that came around in Lost Thunder. We have a Full Art Mina. We, as in the UK, US, Europe, etc., don't have this Full Art Mina. Now, it's not completely and utterly brand new. It was released previously in Japan in Tag All-Stars. Now, Tag All-Stars was a very, very cool set. It was the last set of the Sun and Moon era over in Japan. And the thing is, it is a set that we didn't get all of, to be honest with you. It is a set where we're missing a bunch of cards. Pokemon don't tend to do this very much anymore, where they have a bunch of cards, even in a special set, that we never end up getting. Like, one of my favourites is Clay. I adore Clay. Clay is one of my very, very favourite of the gym leaders in Pokemon. But Full Art Clay never got a release. Not in English. Now, thanks to the lovely Antoine Boulet, I do actually have the Japanese print of this card, or Yakon if you prefer, because Clay's awesome. And I was going to pick this up at some point, but you know what? I didn't need to, because the lovely Antoine Boulet hooked me up. But the point is, that is just one of many cards from Tag All-Stars that, for whatever reason, we never actually got. Just like this Mina. And now this Mina is coming out in China, and this is one of the things I love, absolutely love, that China is doing with catching up with the Pokemon TCG. Bringing out these random cards that Japan had, but then we never got, but then like, well, you know, we might as well. Love it. But again, we're talking about a card which is not going to be easy to get hold of. This isn't going to be like Friends in Alola, where, you know what, it's available in China, it was super duper rare in Japan, now we can get it more easily. Nah, mate, this is also limited to 150 all around China. So, if you want Full Art Mina, you're still better off going after the Japanese print, because this is limited to 150. And that kind of tells you everything you need to know. Now, in terms of this Mina, if you look on eBay, it's not horrendous. You can pick it up for, I mean, the cheapest one on eBay right now seems to be like $55. Some of them are a little more expensive, up around the $70 mark. But obviously, a lot of this is going to depend on condition, etc., etc. It's not an absurd card in terms of value. It's also not a hugely cheap card, but it is a little bit better. The Chinese version, like I say, sometimes we can look at it and go, hey, that's a fun alternative. I'll get the Chinese version here. No. Don't do that. The Japanese version is going to remain cheaper. But I had to tell you about this stuff. I had to tell you about this tournament. I had to tell you about these prize cards. These things are awesome. But now it's over to you guys. Would you want to enter these kind of tournaments? How do you feel about having these prize cards that are limited to 150? Tell me anything you want to tell me in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, all kinds of fun things. Oh, and get shout-outs on the channel, like the lovely Evan Parker, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.